My name is Lisa Franks, and sports have always been a huge part of my life. I won gold for Canada in both wheelchair racing and wheelchair basketball. A severe shoulder injury ended my competitive sports career. While I was healing from 4 shoulder surgeries, I found that I really wanted to be in nature all the time. And the solution for that was van life. For the past 3 years, I've been living in my wheelchair-accessible camper van. I surf, I mountain bike, and I take on any other adventure that comes my way. In my last few videos, I documented my travels from California back to Canada, and I've encountered some accessible barriers along the way. I was expecting an accessible shower at this campground I stayed at. At first glance, it looks like it is accessible, but this bench here is far from the controls and where the stream of the water would hit. Here is the water fill station. Again, it's up a curb and I can't get there. There's no ramp around any of these curbs to get up there.
Sorry, we don't actually have a wheelchair ramp access here. We've been complaining to the Strata for years.
Okay. In today's video, I'm addressing another barrier in my very own van. If I can't fix this, I don't know how I'm gonna get up to my bed. Join me as I take you through the troubleshooting process and the solution I found so I can continue my solo adventures. I've been enjoying this beautiful camp spot and everything was going fine until last night. It's been very cloudy here where I'm camping, and there's also quite a few trees. So in order to conserve some energy in my van, I'd actually shut my inverter off. Now I have 2 electrical systems that run my camper part of the van, and one is 12-volt power system, so that includes things like my fridge, my sink, the pump for my sink, my diesel heater, my electrical fans, and that runs on one system. And then I have another system for 110, so household plug-in items, and so that can run things like it can charge my laptops, all my devices. I have an induction electric cooktop, so that plugs into it, and that stopped working last night. So I had shut that off to conserve energy because it does draw a little bit of energy, and then I went to turn it on and it just wouldn't boot up. Like, there was power to it, but it wasn't actually running and starting up properly. So that, I wasn't too panicked, but then I went to go to bed and I realized that I actually need that inverter and the 110 power to get into bed. So if you're new to the channel, I have a lift that gets me onto my bed and it runs off 110 household voltage. I have this lift because my bed is very high. You can see it comes above my shoulders, and it's that height because I have to have my mountain bike under the bed. Thankfully, my bench was not completely closed. It was actually halfway open. I had grabbed something from inside the bench and left it up. And this actually helped me a lot because I could transfer onto that height, and then from that height, I could still get onto bed. And it wasn't a whole lot of work. If the bench was completely closed, then that's a big jump up onto the bed, which I can do, but it's really, really difficult, and there's a small risk and chance that I would fall. So thankfully it was halfway up, but the only problem is that transfer puts a lot of like torque on the top of the bench when I transfer onto it. if the bench is all the way down, it's nice and stable and I feel good transferring onto it. But when it's suspended like that, there's a lot of movement as I'm trying to put my body weight and slide my body weight across it. So I really want to fix this inverter and get everything properly working in the van. Right now I can't cook inside, so I'm having to haul all my cooking gear outside and use my propane stove. So I have to figure this out. So there's the lid. It's partially open. And if I take this cushion off, the transfer isn't too bad. It's maybe a foot higher, but I can make it onto the bench, and then for the bench up onto the bed. It's doable. It's challenging, but I made it last night. What I don't like about this is as it's suspended up in the air like this, it's not as stable. It puts a bit of strain on the connectors underneath. So I need to figure this out sooner rather than later. I can survive for a while just doing the transfers this way, but I don't want to be doing this long term. Certainly one of the biggest hesitations I had when going full-time into van life was, what if something broke down? What would I do? How would I fix it if I'm on the road or in the middle of nowhere? I have had my fair share of things break down in the van already in my 3 years living in it. The first big problem was that my wheelchair lift didn't come in time when my van arrived. And so I had to go several months without a wheelchair lift, which meant I had to crawl in through the sliding door and then pull my wheelchair into the van and then get from the floor up into my wheelchair. So that was a big pain. My wheelchair lift also broke while I was on the road. And so I was able to put it back together, but there was a fray in one of the cables and I didn't feel confident using it. So again, I had to crawl in and out of the van for another 6 weeks while that was getting repaired. And then my power sliding door actually stopped working within a few months of getting the van, which was probably the hardest thing to deal with because I couldn't actually physically open and close the door myself. So I ended up having to live in my apartment. Thankfully, it wasn't rented out, and so that was probably the biggest pain. I've also had to fix a fuse. So when I first was on the road heading to California my first year, I noticed a burning electrical smell anytime I would run my induction cooktop, and it turns out I think now looking back, there was just a loose connection, but it was melting all the casing around one of the big fuses, so I had to replace all of that all on my own. I had issues with my charging, so when I drive, that will actually charge my camper van batteries, and that just stopped working. And then just about 6 months ago, I had another fuse go to that charger. So I've dealt with all those things. I've managed. I know it's not the end of the world when you have a breakdown. I need to head to the back of my van to get to my electrical panel so I can hopefully figure out what is causing this issue. I'm underneath my bed right now. I had to unload my bike and then transfer up onto the floor through the back of my van. There is the bike unloaded, my wheelchair that I had to get out of to get it here. And I really wish you could see the mountains, but they're under a bit of cloud cover right now. So I'm sitting here, and that's to access my electrical panel. So there's a panel here, but I can't really get to much, so I'm gonna have to take this whole big panel off to be able to get to the electrical system and hopefully see what is going on. Okay, so now I can see my whole electrical system and figure out the problem. I'm gonna disconnect the fuse going to the inverter and see if just not letting any power go through it could hopefully maybe, I don't know, do something and reset the module. Going to test the fuse itself. Yeah, the fuse is good. So, time to put it back on. The next thing to test is my voltage over the inverter, and so my batteries are at 13.6 volts right now. Yep, that's working. Doesn't look like the problem is solved, or I can't figure it out. I'm thinking problems in that box, so I'm gonna order a replacement. Well, it looks like I will be without 110 power for a few days. I ordered a new inverter, and it's gonna be in Calgary in 2 days, so that's pretty quick, but it's about 3 hours from where I am, so I'm gonna, you know, enjoy this view now that the sun is out for the next 2 days, because there's no rush. I will manage just fine. As I just fall off, slide out the bed. As I was saying, I will manage just fine without 110 power. I can't get the inverter working. It's gonna be a few days until I get a new one, and I really don't want to use the bench when it's halfway up. It's just, I think it's gonna wear on the connectors and kind of work away at the screws the way it's connected. So I really want to figure out a way to get it working again, and I had a brainstorm, and I remembered that I have one of these cigarette lighter chargers, right? In your vehicle, you shove that into the, you know, what used to be a cigarette lighter, and it's got 110 or the USB charging. I checked the wattage on both this and my lift in the bench, and if my math is right, it should be able to power it. So my thought was that I could run an extension cord from the lift to this plugged into my vehicle, and it should work. The only catch is the vehicle has to be running in order for this to work. But Ford has an app on my phone that I can check my gas mileage, I can check all these things, my tire pressure, just from the app, and I can actually start my van. So the idea is I start the van using the app, I use the lift, get off to bed, and then I can shut it off with the app. So let's hope this works. I have the extension cord running all the way, and it's plugged in here. I'm just going to test to see. I'm pretty sure the vehicle has to be running, but I'm going to test to see if it works. So yeah, nothing's happening. It doesn't work when the vehicle is not running. Okay, so I'm going to start my van using the Ford app, which I think is pretty cool. All right, the van is running. That beep is just because my seat is swiveled. And let's see, moment of truth. Is this going to work? Nothing. The bench didn't move at all. So that didn't work. I think the key needs to be in the ignition and the van running for the outlet to work, which doesn't really help me because if I do that, have the van running, then get on the lift up to bed, there's no way to shut the van off. But I'm gonna try it anyways because my radio and my navigation screen actually stay on for a little while after the van is turned off and the key is out of the ignition. So I'm wondering if maybe that outlet might actually stay powered up. So that's kind of my last chance at having this work. We're gonna find out. Okay, I'm gonna try and start my van without actually transferring into the driver's seat. I think I could just reach. Let's see here. Alright. So the van is running, I'm sure. Okay, yeah, the van is running and the remote and the lift work when the van is running. So at least I can open and close this as I need, just with the van running, but I'm gonna try it without the van running and see, there might be a delay. It works. Okay, so the outlet still has power for a little bit of time once the vehicle is turned off. I can work with that. All I have to do is make sure I'm completely ready for bed, ready to spend the entire night up there, start the vehicle, shut it off, doesn't have to run for long, and then quickly get onto my lift and take it up before the power outlet shuts off. I don't know how long it stays on, but I'm hoping at least 2 or 3 minutes. We have a solution, yay! It's 10 o'clock at night and there's still some daylight out because I am so far north. But I'm pretty tired. I spent the majority of my day trying to figure out a way to get up here safely, but I can rest easy knowing that I have a solution for the next few days. If you're wondering how I'm gonna get back into my wheelchair in the morning, I actually don't use the lift for that. Gravity is my friend. I can just slide right from the bed into my wheelchair and I don't use the lift at all, so that's not a problem. I think I'm just gonna spend the next few days enjoying this beautiful camp spot, going for some bike rides, and then when I head to Calgary, I'll be really enjoying that drive. It's a beautiful scenic mountain drive and it'll be my last view of the mountains for many months because I will be spending my summer in the prairies in Saskatchewan. So I think that's about it. I'm gonna check in with you guys when I'm in Calgary with the inverter. The new inverter is here and I'm gonna take the old one off. Got some shop lights going. Hopefully this goes smoothly. I tried just putting this new switch to the old inverter because it's really a communication problem is what the error is that I'm getting. So that didn't work. So that means there's something wrong, as I suspected, in the actual inverter itself. I was about to swap out the inverter with the new one and I realized that the inverter is quite heavy. It's about 20 pounds. And because I don't have ab muscles at work or back muscles at work, I'm not able to like lift something in front of me easily. I'll just fall over. And I suspected that would be the case, but I wanted to try it anyways. So I didn't think it'd be safe for me to try to pull that off the wall and put a new one on without these muscles working. But that's actually why I had the inverter sent to Calgary, because my brother lives here and I knew if I was in a pinch, he would be able to help me out. So he's going to come out, he's going to swap the inverters for me. I'm going to talk him through it because he's a little skeptical about working with the electricals, but I'm sure we can do it. And it's just an easy matter of putting it back on the wall and hooking up the new connections and swapping it out. So I'm sure it's going to be no problem for him. I used to be so stubborn that I would probably try to do that on my own, and it might even fall and break. So with age and maturity, I've learned to recognize my limits and know when I do need a helping hand. I would love to have done this job all on my own, but there's absolutely no shame in asking for help to get it done a little easier and a little safer. So I'm really appreciative that my brother's here and can finish the task for me. Okay, moment of truth to see if we did a good job. That's what it was doing before. It would not change from those numbers, but yes, it now changed to 14.4, which is the voltage of my battery, which means it seems like it's working. And I'll do one little test here with the lift. Yes, we have 110 power. Job well done. And another problem solved on the road. One thing I have missed over the past few days are my smoothies, because my blender is 110 voltage and this one's actually too powerful to use the cigarette lighter plug-in. So this smoothie is gonna taste extra sweet because I've had to work for it. I wish I could go back 3 years from now and talk to myself as I was starting out van life. I had so many fears about what would happen if things broke down in my van, especially something I need for accessibility. I would tell that girl that you'll figure it out no matter what, and if you can't do it on your own, there are people willing to help out. The Nomad community is exceptional for supporting one another. So if you're one of those people who talks themselves out of doing something really cool because you have a lot of fear thoughts, let me be here to offer you some encouragement. There will be hurdles and bumps on the road, but you will get through them. And with each obstacle that you overcome, you'll have more confidence to face the next one. So don't let fear hold you back. Get out there and explore this world, and don't forget to keep it real. Cheers, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next adventure.